Are you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years, with over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews. Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Excited to have Matt Curtis and Matt Curtis Real Estate here to talk a little bit about market trends and how interest rates affect real estate agents, which is a huge, huge part of y'all's business.
Yeah, I mean, for 90% of real estate agents, like if your goal is to sell 1 to 30 homes, interest rates actually should not even impact you. Because you think about it, if your goal is 30 homes to sell and there's, say, 10,000 homes sold in Huntsville in a year, that's such a small percentage. There's plenty of buyers and sellers out there to hit your goal. So I think a lot of agents rely on that excuse of, oh, interest rates are high or whatever, so I'm not hitting my goals. But that's really not the reason why you're not hitting your goals.
And so talk a little bit about how maybe interest rates affect maybe larger teams and brokerages.
Yeah, now for like a brokerage or a larger team that has, if we're selling 1,000 homes and there's 10,000 homes sold in the market, that's a significant portion of the market. And so interest rates really do drive additional opportunities for brokerages and teams and stuff like that. And so a smart team, a smart brokerage, there's two ways to make profit. Sell more homes, bring in more income, or you can reduce your expenses. And so it's a balancing act of knowing what kind of market that you're in. Do we need to reduce our expenses just a little bit to be able to ride out this wave for the next market with, better interest rates?
Yeah, and I mean, a big part of your business is that marketing and outreach and the different touch points that we talked about in previous episodes. How do you look at it from an overall perspective when you're looking at maybe those trends and kind of seeing, what the business is doing as a whole and maybe the areas that you're in? And, how do you, even if it's things maybe are successful in certain things, decide to take the reins back a little bit when you need to adjust profit on some things?
Yeah, I mean, here's how I look at it is in a market that's down. And so interest rates, our number of sales, we were talking about sales a minute ago, and the average number of home sales across the US is about 5 million a year. We got up to 6 during the COVID years, but we've been around 4 of the last 3 years. So if you do the math, 5 minus 4, that's 1 million buyers each year, 3 years. So 3 million buyers have been sitting on the sidelines for a while. And so as a business owner, you're like, those buyers want to come back. If you like poll first-time home buyers or people that haven't bought a home yet, over 80% of them want to buy a home. They're sitting on the sidelines. And so when conditions are more favorable for them, which they don't realize it's actually pretty favorable right now, but for the ones that haven't been educated that they don't think it's favorable enough for them, they're going to re-enter the marketplace. And so how I look at it as a team lead is we're going to grow, like we've grown like 35% in this market. So we're going to grow in a quote unquote down market. But when those 3 million buyers come back and we go from 4 million home sales to 5 or 5.5, we're going to really grow. And so it's an opportunity to pick up market share because most people, they're just dialing back everything. They're just trying to hold on for the next wave. But when they've dialed back the wrong things, like they've dialed back their marketing and their agent count and all those different things, they're not going to be able to have the bandwidth to ride the next market. And so for an agent joining our team is we're investing in where we've got a bigger market share. And so we're growing in this market, but when the market gets even better, it'll get infinitely better for our team.
Yeah, and talk about, I mean, I think, that the gold mine, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, that gold mine that maybe agents should be thinking about with their leads that maybe are a little bit older, that they would almost say, maybe not, but now the timing is maybe a good time for them to maybe revisit that.
Yeah, so anytime interest rates start to come down, and so the last 3 years, like we've been, a lower market, rates got up to like sevens. They got down to like low sixes. We've been low sixes, mid six range. But either way, the rates have come down. And so some of those 3 million buyers are now starting to re-enter into the marketplace. And so that translates to several thousand buyers here in our marketplace. Um, and so anytime those interest rates come down, most agents, what they do, a lot of them like, I want new leads, I want new leads, I want new leads. Well, most people don't transact for 9 months. And then the other thing is, some of those people were sitting on the sidelines, and now that interest rates have come down, they're ready. Like it's like a cookie you baked in the oven, and then, it's been time, and now they're ready. They're ready. They're ready to help, to buy a home. And so we have in our system, we have a pond that's called our 2 to 12 month list. So these are all the leads that come in the last 2 to 12 months that an agent, hate this, I hate to say it, but threw it in this pond. They decided to stop prospecting that lead because they just want the new leads coming in. The ones that go back and they prospect those leads can do really, really well, especially in an interest rate environment that's gone down. And so if you're an agent, if you're an agent not on our team, you should be calling those leads that have come in last year because interest rates have come down. You'll be shocked how many people are now ready to buy and sell.
And I think, we talked about a lot, like how much goes into getting a lead. And so I feel like if you have that lead and you got that lead, even if it was 10 months ago, it took so much to get that lead that it's almost worth it. The potential return is greater than the chance of not doing. Like there's so much opportunity there
Yeah.
that agents are just probably just not thinking, hey, I guess this is probably not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the downside of being on a team. Like, you didn't pay for it, so you don't know the value. That's $1 million sitting right there that, that we've invested in, and that there's a lot of business sitting there. It's like one of the most discouraging thing for to go back through and call that list and then like, oh, I already bought, I already sold. It's like we missed out on the opportunity because we didn't stay in touch.
Yeah, and talk about maybe some of those objections that maybe people or agents might get when they have this conversation, or maybe they're maybe talk just maybe some of the objections that maybe come about with this conversation.
Well, here's the thing. So interest rate objection is a real objection that you're going to get. And if you're a real estate agent, you should be thinking about what objections am I going to get? There's usually like a handful of them.
Mhm.
That's one of them. Like if you call somebody today and they give you an interest rate objection and you're stumped, then that something's wrong. Like, my daughter Callie, she's interviewing right now. So she did an internship at the White House. It's really hard for her. She went from White House to Mama's house, and now she's trying to get a job. And so but she was doing she was doing some interviews yesterday, and she didn't realize one of the positions they're actually going to is a little bit of sales, and they caught her off guard. She didn't know. So now she's got a final interview. So she now knows like, hey, this is part of it. And so I'm going to help her, kind of prepare for that. But as a real estate agent, you shouldn't go into a call with an interest rate objection, not be prepared for it.
Mm.
The, pros or amateurs, they practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can get it wrong. And so you should be practicing this like in your sleep. You could regurgitate interest rate objection handling in your sleep. Problem is most agents, they're not even amateurs because they never even practice. Amateurs practice till they get it right. They're not even amateurs. So that's why 87% of agents get out of the business because they don't practice.
Yeah, and I think it's that mindset shift too of knowing the difference between an objection and a condition. And I think we've talked about it in some previous episodes as well. It's, how can you maybe, if you're not getting the feedback you want as an agent, how can you phrase it in a certain way that no means yes? And I think, there's so much we've talked about in those episodes that I think, if you can go in with the framework of knowing what your objections are, knowing the interest rate objections, knowing, how to approach it with those particular customers that you're talking to, and then also being okay to look back at that book of business and say, hey, it's been 2, 12 months, 10 months. Maybe I should give this person a call again and just see where they are.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a renter and you're saying, hey, interest rates are too high.
It could be higher.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be higher, but how much rent are you paying to your landlord? You're actually paying 100%.
Mm.
So you're telling me 100% is not too high, but 6.5 is. And then the other thing is a lot of renters, they just don't understand. Like, they're hanging around renters. They're not hanging around homeowners, and so they're getting bad advice. Homeowners have 40 times the net worth of renters. It's 40x, like it's over $400,000 versus like 10 grand, and it's not because homeowners are investing in the stock market more or anything like that. It's because of this home ownership. They're building equity from principal. They're building equity from appreciation. For a lot of homeowners, like if you put 5% down and the average appreciation rate is like 4.4%, let's call it 5 for even numbers. 5%, it went up 5%. You put down 5%. A lot of people say you just made 5% of your money. No, you just doubled your money. And that's how people build wealth. But if you're renting, that rent continues to go up year after year after year. And so that's why, the middle class is shrinking because, I mean, we've got a crisis in our country right now. The average age of a home buyer right now is 58. 58 years old. Used to be like 38. Now the average first-time home buyer is like 39, almost 40 years old. And so why this country is so special is because it's the middle class. People stop buying homes or delay buying homes, we lose that middle class and we lose what's special about our country.
Yeah. And we'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes with resources and links to stuff. So if you're wanting to find out more and kind of maybe even some of the other conversations that we've had, or even some of the resources on the website, that'll all be linked below, but I appreciate it.
Awesome.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.